Why you should care about the consequences of civil unrest. Civil unrest is one of the most visible signs of societal dissatisfaction. From historic marches for equal rights to the turbulent protests of today, these events are moments when communities rise to challenge injustices. But their true impact goes far beyond what we see on the surface. Whether it's an inspiring call for change or a stark reminder of societal divides, understanding the causes, consequences, and potential solutions of civil unrest is crucial for activists and society as a whole. In this video, we'll explore the ripple effects of civil unrest, its positive and negative outcomes, and how communities can channel collective challenges into opportunities for growth. Seeing the full picture is essential if we aim to shape a fairer, more equitable future for all. Civil unrest can take many forms, from peaceful protests and sit-ins to riots and social upheaval. At its core, it reflects the dissatisfaction of communities with the systems and structures that govern their lives. Throughout history, civil unrest has been a powerful force for change. Consider the civil rights movements of the 1960s, which fought systemic racial injustices, or more recent global protests like the Arab Spring and movements for social justice across continents. These moments demonstrate how unrest often arises when people's voices are unheard, their needs unmet, and their trust in institutions broken. But these incidents aren't simply passing events, they are tipping points. Civil unrest acts as a mirror, revealing cracks within societal systems. Understanding its causes and outcomes helps us not only to process these moments, but also to engage meaningfully in addressing the issues they highlight. Unrest doesn't occur in a vacuum. It stems from underlying issues deeply embedded in societies. Recognizing these root causes is the first step to addressing them. A primary driver is economic inequality. When resources are concentrated in the hands of a few, leaving millions struggling for basic needs, frustration takes hold. Poverty, lack of access to education, and unemployment exacerbate an already volatile situation. Another catalyst is social injustice. Marginalized groups, often the most affected by systemic inequalities, mobilize when their voices go unheard. Examples include movements for gender equality, racial justice, and indigenous rights, where systemic oppression has persisted for generations. Political corruption and broken trust in institutions further fuel unrest. When leaders prioritize personal gain or fail to uphold democratic values, citizens lose faith in the structures meant to protect and serve them, opting instead to fight for accountability in the streets. Other global issues, such as climate change, environmental degradation, and migration crises, have added new layers of complexity. Communities affected by these broader challenges increasingly respond with unrest, demanding attention and action to address their grievances. When civil unrest breaks out, its immediate effects are often visible on every level: personal, community, national, and even global. On the ground, everyday life can be thrown into chaos. Businesses close, schools shut down, and transportation systems grind to a halt. In some cases, clashes disrupt essential services, making it difficult for communities to function. Governments, too, feel the strain, diverting resources to enforce curfews or deploy security forces. When such measures escalate, they can lead to violence, worsening the situation and harming public safety. On an individual level, people living in or near affected areas often experience fear, anxiety, and trauma. Civil unrest not only upends social structures, but also deeply impacts mental and emotional well-being, which can persist long after the event itself. These effects are not confined to one moment or location. They reverberate through systems, setting the stage for deeper, long-term challenges. The consequences of civil unrest don't disappear with the crowds. They leave lasting impressions on the fabric of society. One of the most significant impacts is the erosion of trust between governments and their citizens. Failed responses to unrest often deepen frustrations, making it harder to rebuild public confidence in institutions. Civil unrest also takes a toll on regional and national economies. Businesses affected by property damage or reduced activity may shut down permanently, leading to job losses and reduced revenue streams in affected communities. Sometimes, recovery can take years, amplifying pre-existing inequalities. Vulnerable populations, those already affected by poverty or marginalization, suffer the most. Existing inequalities worsen as these groups struggle to rebuild, while systemic issues perpetuate cycles of disenfranchisement. Despite its challenges, civil unrest has historically spurred significant progress. We cannot overlook the positive outcomes that arise when communities channel unrest into action. Major systemic reforms are often spurred by unrest. For instance, the civil rights movement led to landmark legislation like the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Worker uprisings throughout the 20th century resulted in labor protections that many take for granted today. Unrest also empowers marginalized voices. It brings attention to issues that may otherwise go unnoticed, forcing governments and the public to confront harsh realities. Grassroots movements grow stronger during times of unrest, uniting communities around a shared purpose for lasting, meaningful change. When viewed through this lens, civil unrest is not an entirely negative force. It remains a catalyst for justice, equality, and accountability. Understanding the dual nature of civil unrest is vital. While it can drive important changes, it can also lead to destruction, especially when protests escalate into violence or are suppressed with excessive force. The challenge lies in maintaining this balance, ensuring that unrest calls attention to critical issues without tearing apart the communities involved. Sustainable solutions must be prioritized to ultimately redirect collective energy towards positive action. Civil unrest is not confined to one nation or group. It is a global phenomenon, touching every corner of the world. Examples abound: Hong Kong's fight for democracy, Black Lives Matter protests in the United States, environmental movements like Extinction Rebellion, and uprisings in the Middle East. These instances highlight how unrest in any region is often connected to global developments, whether economic, political, or environmental. Moreover, unrest in one country often inspires movements elsewhere as global solidarity strengthens. Activists can learn from one another, applying strategies and solutions across borders. This interconnectedness reminds us that addressing unrest isn't just about solving local problems. It's about creating a global commitment to justice and fairness. Activists play an essential role in civil unrest, not only by driving movements forward, but by ensuring that unrest leads to meaningful, sustainable change. A key role for activists is in preventing and managing escalation. By fostering open dialogue, they create pathways for negotiation before protests turn violent. Activists also act as changemakers. Through education, advocacy, and grassroots organizing, they push leaders to address the systemic issues that spark unrest in the first place. Examples of successful activism abound. Movements like #MeToo and Fridays for Future show how individuals can amplify awareness and demand accountability without resorting to destruction. The consequences of unrest highlight the urgent need for proactive solutions. Addressing these issues starts by ensuring that societies are built on fairness and equity. Governments must commit to addressing systemic inequalities, particularly economic and social disparities. Wealth redistribution, expanded access to education, and social safety nets are key components of preventing unrest. Rebuilding trust in institutions is equally important. Transparent governance, accountability, and a commitment to serving public interests can restore faith in leadership. Finally, empowering communities to engage in decision-making processes is crucial. When people feel heard and represented, they are less likely to resort to unrest. Education and civic engagement programs can build a society rooted in shared, democratic values. Christopher Mosley emphasizes that civil unrest is neither inherently good nor bad. It is a reflection of society's health and functionality. By addressing its underlying causes, we can transform unrest into an opportunity for growth. Through powerful case studies and real-world examples, Mosley illustrates how societies can channel unrest into positive action. These lessons remind us of the power we all hold to inspire change, even in the face of conflict. Civil unrest affects everyone, whether directly or indirectly. It doesn't just highlight societal problems, it challenges each of us to take action. Understanding its complexities is the first step. causes of unrest in your community? What can you do to address them? Begin by starting conversations, supporting grassroots movements, and advocating for policies that address inequality and injustice. We cannot stand on the sidelines. To inspire change, we must engage. Share this message, join the dialogue, and participate in shaping a fairer, more equitable future. Together, we can turn moments of unrest into milestones of progress. Let's rise to the challenge. Civil unrest matters. And so does your response.